Hi dear students, you are welcome in this video. Dear students, as you know that we have started a series on SETNet. You can see that we are making videos on the previous question papers on SETNet, and here we have previous question paper from November 2017, and it is paper number 3rd, and we will discuss 1 to 25 multiple choice questions. For that you need to take a pen and paper and just write down question number 1, and before question number 1 I will tell you the options, and you have to choose the correct option among all these options and just mark your answer. For example, according to you the answer of first question is 2, then write down the 2 and write down for all the 25 questions, and after that you can calculate your score, how many questions you could solve. You can understand that. So let's start with the very first question. Here we have very first question, you can see on the screen. This is Byron work revolves around a wife whose husband is presumed lost at sea and she takes a lover in his absence. Everybody behaves agreeably on the husband's return. Byron's technical skills in verse is in display here as the work counterpoints the colloquial and the formal. Now identify the work, and we have 4 options. Number 1, Manfred. Number 2, Don John. Number 3, Beppo. Number 4, The Bride of Abydos. Now just you have to write down your correct option which you consider among these 4 options. For example, according to you the number 1 is the correct option. So now this is question number 1, and before question number 1 just you have to write down number 1, and at the end how many questions you can solve, you can understand that. For example, this is question number 1 and the answer you consider number 1. If it is correct, then just mark it as correct, otherwise you can leave it as it is as wrong. Now see here the correct option is number 3, Beppo. So Beppo is the correct option here. Question number 2, who is the author of the poem Our Casuarina Tree? Number 1, Sarojini Naidu. Number 2, Toru Dutt. Number 3, Rabindranath Tagore, and number 4, Kamala Das. And the correct option is number 2, Toru Dutt. Question number 3, in this Jacobean play, the Black King and his men representing Spain and the Jesuits are checkmated by the White Knight Prince Charles. This political satire drew crowds to the Globe Theatre until the Spanish ambassador protested and James I suppressed the play. Identify the play. Here you can see 4 options. Number 1, The Wonderful Year. Number 2, A Game at Chess. Number 3, A King and No King. Number 4, The Night of the Burning Pestle. And the correct option is number 2, A Game at Chess. Question number 4, Frederic Jameson associated postmodern culture with dash capitalism. Number 1, market. Number 2, monopoly. Number 3, imperialist, and number 4, multinational. And the correct option is number 4, multinational capitalism. Question number 5, early in Evelyn was a handful of dust. While Tony and his young son John Andrew walk to the church, John tells his father a story he has heard from the stable manager Ben about a mule who had drunk his company's rum ration in the First World War and subsequently died. What is the mule named? And we have options. Number 1, Peppermint. Number 2, Dope. Number 3, Dynamo. Number 4, Poke. And the correct option is number 1, Peppermint. Number 6, the Oxford English Dictionary was published in 12 volumes with its current title in the year. Number 1, 1928. Number 2, 1930. Number 3, 1933. And number 4, 1915. And the correct option is 1933. Number 7, the life and opinions of Tristram Shandy, gentleman, is notorious for its many digressions across 9 volumes and its failure to deliver a complete autobiography, in which volume does Tristram Shandy finally recount his birth. Number 1, volume 3rd. Number 2, volume 5th. Number 3, volume 8th. And number 4, volume 9th. And the correct option is number 1, volume 3rd. Question number 8. Miguel de Cervantes' inimitable Don Quixote foreshadows metafictional moorings when the novelist A says that the first chapters of the narrative are recreated from the archive of La Mancha. B says that it is a faithful rendering of a Catalan text in Spanish. C says that part of it has been translated from the Arabic by the Moorish author Said Hamet Benengeli. D says that he is rewriting the history of a medieval knight, altering the heroic vein with a farcical mode. The right combination: number 1 A and B, number 2 B and C, number 3 A and C, number 4 B and D. And the correct option is number 3 A and C, means says that the first chapter, here you can see this is the correct option, and C. In his theory of mimesis, Plato says that all art is mimetic by nature. Art is an imitation of life. To argue his case, he gives the example of A, number 1 cloud, number 2 chair, number 3 tree, and number 4 river. And the correct option is number 2 chair. He gives the example of chair. So for that he gives another example, or for that he explains in reference to another example, but in mimesis he says that chair. So when Plato talks about art is twice removed from the reality, then he gives the example of tree. So you can always consider these two things. Chair he gives as the example of mimesis, and here tree. Art twice removed from the reality. Here it is sometimes becomes confusing, but you can understand this. Next, 10. The translation of Gita into English in 1784 called Bhagavad Gita marked, in William Jones' opinion, an event that made it possible for the first time to have a reliable impression of Indian literature. Who was the translator? Who translated Gita in 1784? Number 1 Charles Dickens, number 2 H.J. Colebrook, number 3 Ram Mohan Roy, and number 4 Nathaniel Hallhead. And the correct option is number 1 Charles Dickens. Question number 11. One of the plays among the following contains the characters Call, Gib, Dan, and Mac. Identify the play. Number 1 Everyone, number 2 The Castle of Perseverance, number 3 The Second Shepherd's Play, and number 4 The Marshals. And the correct option is number 3 The Second Shepherd's Play. 12. In which of these prisons is Defoe's character Moll Flanders born? Number 1 Gatehouse, number 2 King's Bench, number 3 Newgate, and number 4 Lydgate. And the correct option is number 3 Newgate. 13. Teresa in Milan Kundera's novel The Unbearable Lightness of Being, troubled by Thomas's promiscuity, falls an easy prey to jealousy, fear, and nightmares. Which of the following are the terrible dreams she has? A. She dreams of cats attacking her. B. She dreams of wolves attacking her. C. She dreams that she is dead and buried in a common grave where she lies with the corpses of strangers. And D. She dreams that she is dead, stripped of her clothes and plagued by other naked corpses. The right combination: number 1 A and C, number 2 A and D, number 3 B and C, and number 4 B and D. And the correct option is number 2 A and D, means she dreams of cats attacking her, and D last, she dreams that she is dead, stripped of her clothes and plagued by other naked corpses. Question number 14. The opening lines of Wordsworth's Immortality Ode: there was a time when meadow, grove, and stream, the earth and every common sight, to me did seem, apparelled in celestial light, the glory and freshness of a dream, closely resembles Coleridge's lines. So these lines, so there is resemblance to these lines of Coleridge. Now these lines are of Wordsworth's in Immortality Ode, and these lines we have by S.T. Coleridge. And in which work or in which poem these lines resemble? There was a time when earth and sea and skies, the bright green well and the forest's dark recess, with all things lay before mine eyes in steady loveliness. Identify the Coleridge's poem. Number 1, Fierce in Solitude. Number 2, The Mad Monk. And number 3, to William Wordsworth. And number 4, Dejection and Ode. And the correct option is number 2, The Mad Monk. 15, Christina Rossetti's Goblin Market, a rare blend of allegory and fairy tale world, presents the story of two sisters, Laura and Lizzie. Which of the following is not true about the enchanted world that the poem unravels? Now, you should always think about this word not. Most of the times you find that what is not there is asked in these exams, and here hence you should be very careful while reading the question. So read the question with full concentration so that you can understand first the question, and then it will be very easy to draw out the answer or to recognize the answer. And here we have 4 options. Number 1, Laura buys fruits from the goblins in exchange of her golden lock of hair, a tear more rare than pearl. Number 2, Jenny, a girl who ate the goblins' fruits, pined away and sought them by night and day. Number 3, Laura, who goes to the market again, does not see the goblins but hears only their shrill cry piercing the air. Number 4, Laura's hair grew thin and grey and she wanes like the full moon to swift decay. And the correct option is number 3, Laura, who goes to the market again, does not see the goblins but hears only their shrill cry piercing the air. Now, this is not true about this goblin market, means all these things are true, or all the 3 options remaining are true. So you can understand these options so that you can consider these options for the next examination. Now here you have question not about, but it is possible that the question would be asked based on these options. So read these options carefully. Question number 16. In which poem does Judith Wright lament the erasure of native culture in the following lines? The song is gone, the dance is secret with the dancers in the earth, the ritual useless and the tribal story lost in an alien tale. Options are number 1, the 5 senses, number 2, legend, number 3, Bullocky, and number 4, Bora ring. And the correct option is number 4, Bora ring. 17. Years before Winston Smith, the protagonist of George Orwell's Dystopia 1984, got an evidence of the party's dishonesty, what is it? Number 1, Emmanuel Goldstein's confession that he is a party operative, not an enemy of the party. Number 2, O'Brien's diary entry hinting at the non-existence of Big Brother. Number 3, a photograph which proves that some citizen accused of a crime was out of the country while it was committed. Number 4, a colleague's revelation that the inner party members have systematically destroyed all historical documents and created false documents. And the correct option is number 3, a photograph which proves that some citizen accused of crime was out of the country while it was committed. 18. The Indian Queen is number 1, a heroic tragedy in rhymed couplets by John Dryden. Number 2, a long poem in free verse by Keki Daruwala. Number 3, an autobiography of an Indian princess in exile. And number 4, a fictional account of the life of Maharani Gayatri Devi. And the correct option is number 1, a heroic tragedy in rhymed couplets by John Dryden. 19. In J.M. Coetzee's Disgrace, David Lowry is working on an opera on the life of one of the romantic poets. Who is the poet? Number 1, Blake. Number 2, Shelley. Number 3, Byron. And number 4, Coleridge. And the correct option is number 3, Byron. 20. Assertion. Here we have 2 statements. One is assertion and the second is reason. So these statements are most of the times very complicated. So you need to read them very carefully and very deeply and understand what is the statement and what is the reason. And then you can find out their explanation or the options. So let's read it carefully. Assertion A. There is no unity or absolute source of the myth. whether it is correct or wrong. And the reason is, the focus or the source of the myth are always shadows and virtualities which are elusive, unactualizable and non-existent in the first place. Any search for the discursive unity in the myth is therefore misplaced. Now if you look at this, what is given you in the assertion? There is no unity or absolute source of the myth. So if you look at this statement, you find that this statement seems correct. If it is correct, now what is the reason? What is the reason? The source of the myth are always shadows. Yes. So there is no any concreteness regarding the myths or whatever happened in the ancient texts. So you can find that these are the shadows. Then you will support the first thing. It is myth, right? Shadows. And it is based on virtualities. Again, they are elusive, unactualizable and non-existence. All these things are correct. Hence, the first sentence or the first statement is correct. And why correct? Because the reason is true. Now you understand that both the statements are true. So let's find out the options or the reasons given here. Number one, both A and R are true, and R is the correct explanation of A. Now if you understand this, you will understand this very first statement or very first option. Here both are true. Why both are true? Because we have the truth here. Myths, they are based on the virtualities or they are elusive or unactualable. Now we have to find out whether R is correct explanation of A or not. Second option, both A and R are true, but R is not the correct explanation of the A. If both are true, then this must be the explanation of first. Why? Because this thing supports to the first option or the first statement. Number three, A is true but R is false. And number four, A is false but R is true. Now if you read this carefully and if you understand the myths, then you will solve this question very quickly. And the correct option here is number one, both A and R are correct or true, and R is the correct explanation of A. Why? Because we have a correlation between both the statements. 21. Which of the following landscapes of England figures prominently in the poetry of Ted Hughes? Number one, Cornish cliffs. Number two, Dorset moors. Number three, Yorkshire moors. And number four, Chesil beach. And the correct option is number 3, Yorkshire moors. 22. The title of MC Chagla's autobiography is number 1, Memoirs of My Working Life. Number 2, Without Fear or Favor. Number 3, Roses in December. And number 4, The Pen as My Sword. And the correct option is number 3, Roses in December. 23. Who or which among the following gave the expression a leopard can't change its spots to English language? Number 1, the King James Bible. Number 2, Geoffrey Chaucer. Number 3, Shakespeare. And number 4, the Royal Society. And the correct option is number 1, the King James Bible. 24, which of the following is not true about Albert Camus' novel The Plague? Number 1, Dr. Rex describes the phenomenon of dying rats using the metaphors of disease, especially the bubonic plague. Number 2, Penelux interprets the plague in his first sermon as a sign of the apocalypse. Number 3, Michael is the first victim of the plague. And number 4, Tauru thinks that the plague symbolizes human. So here it is human indifference, not difference. So it is indifference. And the correct option is number 2, Penelux interprets the plague in his first sermon as a sign of the apocalypse. And the last question of this series, John Lydgate begins his Siege of Thebes with a prologue of 176 lines in which he imagines himself joining Chaucer's pilgrims in Canterbury, where he speaks with the host and agrees to tell the first tale of homeward journey. The story that Lydgate tells us as the pilgrims depart from Canterbury is meant to be a companion piece too, and options are number 1, the Pardoner's Tale, number 2, the Wife of Bath's Tale, number 3, the Knight's Tale, and number 4, the Miller's Tale. And the correct option here is number 3, the Knight's Tale. So this is the Knight's Tale. I hope you understood all the questions. Now you can calculate your score and you can calculate how many questions you could solve, so that you can recall all the information whatever you read, and this will help you in your coming examination, which is going to be held in September. So I hope this is very useful series to you. If you think this is useful, please comment below in the comment section. This is all about this video. Let's meet in the next video. Thank you very much.